Hi, I'm Sil Reynolds.
And I'm Eliza Reynolds. And this is We Thrive TV. On-the-go answers from the ultimate mother-daughter dynamic duo.
That would be us. And we are here every other week to answer your questions, moms. Today on We Thrive TV, on this episode, we're talking about, are you afraid, moms, that your daughter is going to make the same mistakes that you made when you were a preteen or teen? And moms ask me this all the time.
Yep.
Really, and it's so natural to be feeling this, so normal. That's part of your mothering instincts. You want your daughter to be safe. Maybe you had some experience with, say, drugs and alcohol when you were a preteen or a teen, and it was really too much for you, and you got into some pretty tricky situations. Let's just say that happened. Of course you'd be worried that your daughter's going to do the same, and sometimes that can mean that you're really, really anxious about that and don't know how to handle it, and don't know what to do, and don't know how to even talk with your daughter about it, and she's saying, "Mom, I got this. Why are you so worried about this?
Yes.
You can trust me."
Yeah, I think it comes up a lot as mothers going like, what's my intuition? Like, what's me really knowing how to trust myself? And what is like my own stuff, my fear that's kind of irrational and actually has nothing to do with my daughter, but is stuff that maybe is really personal. And I think that's the real heart of it, is how do you release kind of what we call in psychological language, your projections, right? What you're projecting onto your daughter. So she doesn't have to carry that weight of your stories, the stories you're telling in your own head as her baggage, to carry that along, so that you can hopefully heal that more, so that then she can really just live the life that's hers.
Yeah, it might be some just low-level anxiety, and it might be as big as like really trauma, like a traumatic experience that you had. And if that trauma still lives in you and it's kind of running the show here and it's really triggering you and getting in the way of your relationship with you and your daughter.
Yeah, having the connections and conversations about these topics that you want to be able to have.
Right, I would recommend that you really get some help and support around that. I've known lots of moms who don't even realize that they have a traumatic experience about something that happened during their preteen or teen years, and until their daughter got to be that age, and then it's like comes up big time. Yeah. And so that's something that you might really need to talk about with a professional, and could even clear up, sort it out. Why it happened when you were that age. Where were your parents? Were they involved? Was your mother involved, over-involved, and what happened that you got into trouble, and how can you help your daughter, and how can you know the difference between your own fears based on the past and the present day instincts that you have as a mother.
What's real right now.
To make sure that your daughter's safe, for instance, with the drug and alcohol culture, which is real and there.
Yeah. Well, another example that comes to mind is in elementary school when I was bullied. Do you remember what came up for you?
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty big deal for her.
Yeah, I mean, bullied is a
strong word.
It's a strong word. It's a real word, and it's happening certainly a lot in our schools, and there's also a lot of schools and adults that are really getting on this one.
Which is great.
Yeah, and there could be cyberbullying and all that, really scary stuff. And I had a mean girl experience that was pretty devastating in 7th grade, and I thought I'd gotten over it. And when Eliza...
Don't we often think that? Sometimes, and then there it is again.
A part of me had definitely healed it, but a part of me hadn't, and I didn't realize that until Eliza was in middle school.
Well, elementary school, at the end of even at the end of elementary, was when there started to be just a little bit of mean girl stuff that I was bringing home, and I was feeling left out, and I was definitely sad and struggling with it, crying after school.
I was overreacting. I don't know how aware you were of my overreaction.
Not that much. I was pretty young, but...
Yeah, I was appropriately bringing it to actually some girlfriends, and I was in therapy at the time, and I was able to work it out. But it was interesting. I didn't realize that it reared its ugly face again. That traumatic feeling.
Well, the devastation that your girl was feeling, that, you know, really hit home that you had felt that way. So it became more, I think, about your story and your experience. And then when you were giving that part of yourself the proper love and attention, you were then able to show up for me, to support me in the ways that I needed when I was a fourth grader, to be able to, for me to then heal what was going on and know how to step up and how to deal with it.
Yeah, because you just used the word devastating, and my experience in 7th grade was devastating. It lasted for 2 months. I was shut out, and the adults were not tuned into it, and I didn't know how to ask for help. And so I had a devastating experience, and
mine was less. Mine was sad and a little confusing because the girls weren't being nice, but it certainly wasn't on the same level as what you had experienced, but it became almost for your reality. And so that's another example of what it might be for you. Maybe it's about sex or sexuality. There's lots of different areas this could be coming up, you know, and one of the areas that we really bring this up in is like, where is it appropriate to make sure that your daughter's safe and these certain things aren't repeating? And where is it, you know, like, whoa, maybe she does need to learn here. Maybe a little mistake is okay here, you know? Like, oh, Liza's figuring out about friends, you know? Right, this is a good learning experience for her. You know, this actually isn't devastating for her. It's kind of appropriate, and she's figuring out who's safe and who's not.
And she knows she can come to me and talk about it.
Oh, yay! It's kind of like...
She knows I'm not going to freak out and start crying.
It's kind of good news sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's grounding in, and how do you know the difference?
My gut. And I know that, for instance, with drugs and alcohol, although I didn't get into trouble with them, I definitely experimented with them. And Eliza was hanging out in later middle school and in high school with kids that were a couple years older, and there was definitely drugs and alcohol at some of these parties she was going to. And because I'd had the experience and I was at peace with it, I was able to share with her and trust my instincts. And my gut around that topic. And then you felt safe about talking about who was drinking, who was driving, those kinds of things.
Having really open conversations because you'd healed that piece. And so fundamentally, moms, I think this is about conscious parenting, conscious mothering. It's like
what's your stuff? What's your stuff?
What's hers?
What's not your stuff?
Right. And that it's another step in the journey that we're all on as humans of like, how can we be more awake? How can we be more aware? And how can we separate our story from the truth of what's happening with somebody else? In this case, your daughter.
Now over to you, mom. Do you want to find your people? I know you do. Those mothers in the mothering and daughtering tribe. There is nothing like collective wisdom, and we want to hear your take on this topic.
And so our question for this episode is this. I want to hear the two stories that you've got going on. Maybe there's the story that you're telling yourself, the story that's about you, the story about your lived life, and then what's the other story? Just pausing to say, what's my daughter's reality? What might actually be going on? And sometimes there's immense power in seeing the two stories side by side and getting more and more what's real, what's yours and what's hers.
Yeah, so in terms of mistakes, what mistakes you made and what mistakes she might be making, and that they're separate. They're separate, and one might inform the other, but they're separate experiences. So we want you to share that in the comments section, moms.
Did this video help you? Share the love on Facebook or tweet it out.
As I say, whatever platform you can wrap your head around.
Because sharing is caring, and everyone could use a stronger bond.
So, remember, mom, whenever you're in doubt about your mothering, you got this. You totally got this. It comes naturally. You're going to make mistakes. You're not perfect. Phew, what a relief. And, you know, we know that you're here and you're part of this revolution of mothers and daughters together thriving through the preteen, teen years, and beyond.
And we'll see you the week after next on the next episode of We Thrive TV.
Can't wait to see you then.